great news. I'm the final speaker, so those of you that are roasting out there, just know that we're almost at the end. You know, as I was sitting in my chair over here, ignoring the other speakers, no, that's not true, I didn't do that. I listened very intently to what everybody had to say, especially you, Lundeen. It hung on every single word. But as I was sitting there thinking about this, I thought, you know, there's a little bit of irony associated with this. Here we are all, once again, sitting in the gap. But this time, we're actually doing it for a reason that makes us all happy. So in an effort to keep you all happy, I'm going to be brief. I promise you that. First time in my life. You know, for more than 6 decades, this section of Interstate Highway has been the critical transportation backbone linking Colorado's 2 largest population centers, Denver and Colorado Springs. And you've heard others speak today, and they reminded us how important this corridor is in terms of economic vitality, commerce, and even national defense. And I certainly want to echo those thoughts, but I also want to extend a very heartfelt thanks to a lot of folks that got this done. First of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to my colleagues on the El Paso County Commission. Huge leadership from you all to get us where we are today. Daryl Glenn, Peggy Littleton, Lojinos Gonzalez, and Stan Vanderwerf. Think about this. I came to him a couple of years ago and said, look, I got a couple of crazy ideas to raise local funds. Will you guys come along? And they did. And then we applied for this $65 million grant, a grant that people said you're never going to get. It's harder to get into Harvard than it is to receive one of these grants, and we got it. And it's because of their tenacity and their hard work. That's certainly one of the reasons that we're here today. But there are a lot of other folks that deserve thanks as well. Governor Hickenlooper for taking this so seriously and wanting to get this done. Certainly to the Colorado Department of Transportation and all the effort that they've put into this, and all of the long conversations that we've had on the phone to argue and debate and cuss and discuss and to get this project moving forward. I also want to thank the Douglas County Commissioners, especially Commissioner Partridge. You know, he has been such a significant leader on this from day one. He called me up a couple of years ago after reading some of my comments in the newspaper and said, hey, we're starting this new coalition and I want you to co-chair it with me. And I said to him, are you sure? Do you really want me to do that? And he says, well, yes, of course. Why wouldn't I want you to? And I said, well, it's just, you know, it's not the normal occurrence that people who know my disposition and know my personality that actually invite me to meetings to speak on a regular basis. So I really appreciate all that he's done to get this project going forward. One of the groups that wasn't mentioned today was the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council. They were right there from the first day working with us to move this project forward 2 years ago. And you know what, from them, they were the folks that said, we can do this, we can get it done, don't take no for an answer. And I think because none of us took no for an answer, that's why we're here today. I also want to thank Congressman Lamborn and the other congressional delegation members that worked so hard and fought for us in DC to get us the infra grant. And certainly there were countless others that worked to get us to this important milestone as well. But I want to take just a moment to focus on the most important reason that we're here today and the most important reason this project couldn't wait. And the most important thing to keep in mind, and the most important reason to be patient as we move along, and the most important reason to keep our eyes on this big picture as we go through the growing pains of construction over the coming years, is that this section of I-25 has become an unacceptable threat to our public safety. There simply aren't enough lanes to carry our traffic's volume. And there are far too many accidents. And worst of all, there isn't enough room for our first responders to safely do their jobs. You know, I often tell people, I believe my role as a government official is that we only have a couple of very rudimentary, simple core functions. First, we have a responsibility to protect the public safety. And second, we have a responsibility to provide the public with infrastructure necessary to live their lives. But in particular, public safety issues must always rise above the rhetoric. And we have done that to put this critical public safety issue on the fast track. Think about this. Just remember, 2 years ago, everyone thought this project wasn't going to be started for another decade. So we started 8 years ahead of any time anybody thought this was going to be done. And we also need to keep our focus on this big picture, on the big picture, on this public safety picture. I think we need to dedicate this section of I-25 in the memory of the Colorado troopers who recently lost their lives in service in this very section of roadway. Trooper Jamie Jurcevics was struck and killed by a drunk driver while investigating only a minor traffic accident south of Castle Rock just a couple of years ago. And Trooper Cody Donahue was hit and killed while investigating a crash in this section of road, as the Colonel said, just 1 year later. And so to help us all be patient and drive safely through the months of construction ahead, let's keep those two public servants in mind and all of the public servants in mind. And when this critical public safety expansion project is completed, let's come back together and dedicate a new, wider, and most importantly, a safer roadway in the names of Trooper Jurcevics and Trooper Donahue and all the other public safety officers. Thank you all so much.